The Lexington County Public Library is one of our sponsors. Our other sponsor, of course, is the Lexington Recreation and Aging Commission. By the way, they do all of the decorations. They're standing in the back, so please give them a hand. Now, I want you to know that every year, and I can tell this is going to be the same way, we always have a quality crowd. I'd like to introduce our first storyteller. He's been a longtime friend of mine. Not only is he a master storyteller, he's on television, he's been on the internet, he does filming. He is the producer of NIA, is that correct? NIA Theater Company and the Story Squad. He's been spreading his stories all around this country, and he's going to spread them here with us tonight. Give Darian McLeod a big hand.
All right, how y'all doing? So 25 years. Anybody here on the very first one? Anybody? For real? Oh, you too? Oh, you've aged so well. You are so well preserved. Give it up for 25 years. Sorry about that. All right, so as you heard, my name is Darian McLeod. I'm lucky I get to do a lot of things, and one of the coolest things I get to do is I get to tell stories, all right? So I want to tell you guys a story right now. This is a story that I heard for the first time when I was 6 years old. And one of my gigs, one of my purposes, one of my missions in life is to make sure almost every time I get a group of people together, I tell this story, all right? So this story is really famous, and this story is really old. So I'm sure some of you have heard it before, but if you have, that is our secret. All right? Now, the name of the story is Golden Arm. Once there was a man who every evening after work would return home and remove his coat and take up his jacket and hang his hat and take his supper and sit before the fire. And after eating, he would take out his pipe and slowly blow smoke rings into the flames. He was a very, very ordinary man. For you see, the extraordinary person in this story is the wife. For every evening after her husband would return and she would cook or clean or do whatever it was that she would do, she would take her seat next to him before the fire, and as he slowly blew his smoke rings, in her right hand, she would take a very soft cloth. And she would get a rub on her left arm and hand. For you see, her left arm was made of solid gold. And every evening she would sit there slowly polishing her golden arm. And so one evening she looked up in the flames and she said to her husband, she said, promise me that when I die you shall bury me with my golden arm. The husband, he looked up, he said, what? What are you talking about? And she said, promise me that when I die, you shall bury me with my golden arm. And so he made that promise, thinking nothing of it. But the time came when the woman died. And the night before her funeral, the husband, who stood in that very same room where he made his promise, and he thought to himself, I can't let them bury her with that golden arm. Well, what? If I had that golden arm, I could buy myself a new suit of clothes. No, I can't let them bury her with that golden arm. Why, if I had that golden arm, I could buy myself a new car. No, I can't let them bury her with that golden arm. Why, if I had that golden arm, I could buy myself a new house. So with that, he went to the place and he took the golden arm. And that next night, after the funeral, he stood in that very same room, laughing proudly to himself. I got the golden arm. I've got the golden arm. I can buy myself a new suit of clothes. I can buy a big car. I can buy the biggest, the newest, the finest house in the county. I've got the golden arm. But as he stood there looking out that window on the night sky, those same skies that were clear began to cloud. And those same winds that were still began to blow. He thought he heard something. He thought he heard. Well, what was that? It was just the wind, obviously. It was just the wind. Then once again. Yes, there it was again. It was coming closer and closer. So he ran to the front door and he shut it. And then he locked it. But he could still hear it coming ever closer. Stole my golden arm. It was coming closer and closer. He began to run through the house, looking for someplace the closet. He ran inside and he shut that door. And then he could hear on the other side of the front door. Who stole my golden arm? And I was in the front room. Who stole my golden arm? It was coming closer and closer. He began to clutch that golden arm tighter and tighter to his chest. Who stole my golden arm? Who stole my golden arm? Yo! And with that, the ghost reached out, grabbed the golden arm. The man dropped dead from fright. The ghost was never seen or heard of again. And that was the end of that. All right, raise your hands if you heard that one before. Anybody? Anybody? Okay, cool. We had a couple. Cool. All right, you know what your job is now. Now that you've heard that, I hope you will tell somebody else, all right? But now we are in the season of Hallows Eve, Halloween, where we explore, have fun with all things scary. But, you know, sometimes the scariest thing is maybe not a big black cat or a kind of tree thingy with a jack-o'-lantern mouth, or even a jack-o'-lantern, a ghost or a goblin. Sometimes the scariest thing could be something that we don't know, something that we haven't tried yet. How many people here have ever been nervous, shy, maybe even a little bit afraid? What's the ask me this? How many people here have ever been a new person? Ever been a new person in class, a new kid in class? Ever? The new kid at the school, the neighborhood, the job. Big kid, yeah. See, and how many people have ever been nervous, shy, maybe even afraid to make a new friend? Anybody? It can be scary sometimes. We don't know people, right? Well, this is a different kind of, this is a story just about that. This is a story, the first story that we shared tonight came from folklore. This is a story that comes to us actually from a book. The book is written by a man named Larry King. It's illustrated by a woman named Amy Schwartz. And the title of the story and the book is Because of Lozo Brown. They moved next door last Thursday. He's new to my hometown. I'm afraid to go and meet him. That big boy, Lozo Brown. Now I'm afraid to go to school. I don't dare go downtown. I'm gonna stay indoors forever because of Lozo Brown. Oh, I wish he had not moved next door, even to the street, or even to this town or state. I wish we never had to meet. I'll spend the next 3 years in bed and pull the blankets over my head, except to sneak downstairs for jelly bread because of Lozo Brown. He's bigger than a treehouse. He's taller than a post. The ground shakes when he walks on it. That's what scares me most. He's never said a word to me, but I can tell he's mean. I bet his breath is terrible. I bet his tongue is green. I bet big rats live in his hair, and he roars and growls like a grizzly bear. Oh, I'm sure not going anywhere because of Lozo Brown. I bet you anything he likes to fight. He'll probably try to steal my kite. I worry about such things all night because of Lozo Brown. My mom says his mom's real nice. My dad's talked to his once or twice. But I'd rather eat a bowl of mice than meet that Lozo Brown. Oh no. He's looking in my window. He's just yelled, "Come out and play!" I'll pretend I didn't see him. Maybe then he'll go away. Oh no, Mom is coming up the stairs. She's yelling my full name, telling me to get dressed and go outdoors to play some stupid game. I told Mom he's a pirate and a ghost who changes shape and a monster who gobbles other boys like they were jelly cakes. She laughed and called me Silly Sweets, ruffled up my hair. But I bet that she'll be sorry when I vanish in thin air. You listen carefully now to what I have to say. If I'm not back here mighty quick, you do this for me. Okay? Go find some nice policeman. Search the whole wide town. Tell him I'm amongst the missing because of Lozo Brown. Farewell. I must go meet him, even though he'll probably break my nose. And take my good luck penny and stomp on my poor toes. Wait. Don't call that policeman. I've had a change of heart. I've met my next door neighbor, and he's quite the friendly sort. He let me pet his kitten and feed his tropical fish. He shared his toys and everything a brand new friend could wish. Tomorrow, after school lets out, his mom is taking us downtown. We'll eat ice cream and have big fun because of Lozo Brown. All right, guys. Thank you. Give yourselves a hand. All right, 25 years strong. Let's keep it going 25 years. Make sure you love your storytellers tonight. Afterwards, make sure you come up, give your storytellers a big hug. They love that. They really do. All right? So you guys be good. Tell somebody a story. All right? Thanks, guys. Peace.
That was good. All right, our next storyteller was here with us last year. And if you'll notice on the board over here, you'll see her come up in a little bit with our pictures over here. She's a very gracious lady. She is known as the Princess of Possum Corner, Miss Millie Chaplin.
Thank you. I told her I'd say I'm from Harleyville. It's about 30 miles from Possum Corner, where I was raised, and it's a great place. Harleyville's only claim to fame is that we actually got a visit from the postal inspector when they introduced the Harley-Davidson stamp, because we're the only town in the United States that says Harley, not Harleys or anything like that. So that's your little trivia for tonight. Little Orphan Annie's come to our house to stay, to wash the cups and saucers up and brush the crumbs away, to shoo the chickens off the porch and bake the bread and sweets, to dust the hearth. I'll do it already. Sorry. We'll forget that one. Sorry about that. Over in the county court, it's a wonderful place. And long, many years ago in county court, they always would hire the fiddler. Well, there was a man, and he was the best fiddler in the land. He knew all of the tunes, and he would go and be invited to every wedding, every wake. You had a fiddler at a wake. See what we're missing? And everything. Every dance, he was always invited. And he played, and he was wonderful. And he had a son named Shamus. And Shamus was a lazy boy. Dad wanted to teach him how to play the fiddle so he could join him and they could play together. He wouldn't do any of it. So finally he agreed, and he learned one tune to please his dad, because Dad had asked him so long to do it. And he learned that one song, and he played that one song fairly well. Well, by and by, Shamus' father passed away. And then Shamus was the only fiddler in county court. So, of course, he got asked to all of the dances and the weddings and the wakes and the parties. And every time he went, he played that one tune over and over and over again. But they are such a happy people in Ireland, they just decided, well, one tune was better than no tune, so they kept asking him. And it came up on All Hallows Eve, and there was a party over in another village. And he had to go through the dark, dark woods to get there. And as he was brushing his hair and sprucing himself up and getting his fiddle ready, his mother said, "Oh, you need to come home quickly tonight. You don't stop anywhere because the puka is out tonight. And I don't want the puka to get you." He said, Mom, I'm not scared of any old puka. That's not going to bother me at all. And off he went. He got there, and everybody dusted off their shoes, and he played the one tune over and over and over again. And when the party was over, one of the men came up to him, and they said, "Shamus, don't you want to spend the night with us here?" He said, "You know, this is All Hallows Eve." He said, "The puka is out tonight, and we don't want the puka to get you." He says, "I'm not afraid. No puka's going to bother me." So off he went. And about halfway through, he stopped at the little creek. The moon was shining bright, and he leaned over to get some water. And as he looked down into the reflection of the water, he realized he was not alone, because looking over his shoulder was a great, hairy beast. Steam coming out of his nose, and he had great horns and glowing green eyes. Shamus suddenly was very, very afraid, and he just didn't know what to do. And he stood up, and the beast said, I see you have a fiddle with you. Do you know how to play the white gander?" "No, I don't want to, and that's all. I'll be going now." "No, you won't." He said, "I will teach you the white gander, because I am in need of hearing the white gander tonight." So Shamus took his fiddle, and the beast taught him how to play this one tune. And he made him play it many, many times. And then he said, "Up on my back," he said, "I have someone who is in need of dancing tonight." "Oh, no," he said, "I need to get home to my mother." "No, my mother is going to be very upset if I miss my curfew. I've got to go home." And suddenly, before Shamus knew what was happening, he was on the beast's back, and they were flying and they were flying over toward the Purple Mountains. And Shamus hung on for dear life. He said, I'm not going to make it home tonight. He was very afraid because he saw the mountains looming up in front of him, and he just closed his eyes because there was nothing there, and he knew they were going to crash into the mountain. And then he opened his eyes, and he saw they were flying inside of the mountain down this great tunnel. And they got to the end of the tunnel. He saw a light, and they were in a great cavern. And as the puka let him down, he stood down, and in this great cavern he saw by the firelight on the walls there were tables full of food and drink all over everywhere. And he knew that he was in the lair of the fairies, and he knew better than to eat or drink anything, because if he did, he would never ever leave that cavern. And there over in the corner were chairs, and in these chairs were these ladies. They were gnarled and old and ugly, and their hair was all matted, and their nails were long and curly, and their teeth, those of them that had teeth, were sitting there. And one got up and hobbled over to him, and she said, I see you've come the night the puka has brought someone to dance, to play it, so we can dance tonight. He said, do you know the white gander? Oh, yes, ma'am, I do. He just kind of taught it to me. She said, fine. She said, then start to play. And he picked up his fiddle, and nervously he started to play. And he played, and he played, and he played. And as he played, the women got up and they started to dance. They danced in circles, they danced in squares, round and round the table. And it was almost magically that he knew that as he played, his fiddle got to play faster and faster and faster. And he played 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 for what seemed like hours. And he was playing so fast that all of a sudden his fiddle just flew apart and the music stopped. Shamus stood there, not realizing what was going to happen now, because he'd broken his fiddle and now he had nothing to play. But as he looked up, he saw that the women, who were gnarled and ugly and old-looking, with their hair matted and their teeth gone and their nails all curled up, had become beautiful. They were just lovely women with red and brown and golden hair. And they came over to him and they said, Shamus, you've broken the spell. He said, play the white gander and let us dance. You broke this evil spell off us, and we can return to our forms. And he was very pleased and very happy, but he was still terrified because he had broken his fiddle and he had nothing. And she said, we have something for you. And over in the corner, out came a big white gander. Big gander came over, and he saw that on the gander's back was a solid gold fiddle. The gander stopped and looked at him as if to tell him, take it, it's now yours. And he picked it up and he started to play. And out of that fiddle came some of the most gorgeous music that Ireland has ever heard. And as the women went by him, they each took his hand and dropped a gold coin in it. So soon he had a bag full of coins. The puka looked at him and said, come now, it's time for us to be leaving. And gladly this time Shamus climbed up on his back. And they were back down the tunnel, and they flew back down the tunnel, and of course the tunnel wasn't open. He closed his eyes. He knew he was going to be killed. And as he opened his eyes, they were flying out above the Purple Mountains. And soon, before you could speak, he was back standing at the creek. He slid down off the back of the puka, and he took his golden fiddle and his coins, and the puka said, you did well tonight, young man. He said, and I want you to learn to play, that you had all these tools inside of you all the time. Stop being so lazy. Now go and learn. said, and I want you to be sure that you come back here next All Hallows Eve because the ladies may be wanting to have music with them again. Shamus hurried home. And soon all of the people around heard all of the wonderful music that he could play. And he was invited not only in County Cork, but all of the other counties around. He became the finest, best-known fiddler in the land. But it was guaranteed that he never, ever again went out on All Hallows Eve, and he never, ever played the White Gander ever again. The White Gander. We're coming up on Halloween, also known as All Hallows Eve, and I decided to tell you a story tonight to warn you, because everybody's going trick-or-treating, right? Everybody's got their costumes. Everybody's going to go carefully. Yeah, okay. James was getting of the age where he couldn't go trick-or-treating anymore. This was going to be his last year. He was 12 years old, and he couldn't go anymore. He was going to make the most of it. He got the biggest bucket he could find, and he planned out. He took the map of the town, and he planned out exactly where he was going to go. He was going to get the most candy of everybody because he was not going to lose out on his last time of trick-or-treating. So as he put on his pirate's outfit and he tore off down the stairs, his mother said, "Wait a minute." She said, "Where do you think you're going?" "I'm going trick-or-treating, Mom." "Yes, I know you're going trick-or-treating, but where are you going?" I have a map, see?" He said, "No, let me see this map." And she looked at it, she says, "No, you are to go just around this neighborhood in this block. You are not to go anywhere else. Do you understand me?" Famous last words, right, kids? Yeah. Okay, got it. One honest person in the group. She said, "Yes, ma'am." So out he went. He grabbed his big pumpkin bucket and off he took. He went in the neighborhood just like his mom said, and then he started wandering. Well, she won't mind if I go to a little house over here or a little house over here. And he went everywhere. Map went to the wind. He hit every house he could find. And suddenly, when he looked up, he realized he was at a corner by the graveyard. Well, he knew if he walked fast, he could get by the graveyard. The graveyards can be dark and scary at night, can't they? They can be really spooky. Yes, they can. But even more spooky in this town was an old house that was down at the end of the graveyard. It was 2 stories. The shingles were falling off the roof, and the shutters were catty-cornered where the screws had come loose and they'd fallen off. And it was just yucky looking. But it had a light on. He said, "Well, this will be my last one." So as he edged up to the steps, he went up the steps, and there he saw on the door knocker was a skull and crossbones. And he went, "Oh, I hope I get something good here." And he went up and he went knock, 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 knock on the door. And then he heard scrape, bump, scrape, bump, scrape, bump. As the door opened up, there was this great big man looking down at him going, "What do you want?" "Trick or treat, please." And so he slammed the door, and went scrape, bump, scrape, bump. And he come back and went scrape, bump, scrape, bump. As the door opened up, and the man reached out and dropped something into his bag, and he said, "Thank you, sir," and he turned around and he was gone. Well, he wasn't going to take any more chances, so James went home. He tore in the door and he went zooming upstairs. Mom said, "Wait a minute, I've got to see this candy. I'll bring it back, Mom, I promise. I just want to see what I got." He went tearing up the stairs, And he got out on his bed, and he dumped all the candy out on the bed. And he put the M&Ms over here, and he put the Snickers over here, and he put the candy corn, which he didn't like anyway, he put it way over there. He put the Jelly Bellies over here, and he put the squish, the gummy squidgy little things. Yeah, there you go. He put those over there, and then he looked down, and right down there was a piece of gum wrapped in black paper with a skull and a crossbone on it. This must be what that old man gave me. He didn't give me one piece of candy. And he looked at it. And about that time his dad came in and said, "Oh, son, what all you got?" I like M&Ms. Those are the best kind in the whole wide world. And Dad grabbed a handful of this and a handful of this. And Dad took off. Dads do that, don't they? Yeah. Mamas do too. Then they go to Weight Watchers and swear they haven't cheated all week. But anyway, he grabbed, so James didn't want to lose bubble gum, so he grabbed his bubble gum and he took it out and he started chewing. Pow! And it's almost like that bubble gum had a mind of its own. He started chewing faster and faster and faster and faster. Yum, 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 until James went, and he spit it out on the floor. Wow, that was nasty. And so he grabbed it up and he threw it in the trash can. He scraped all his candy together, put it in his bag, and he got on his pajamas and he went to bed. And there, a little later in the middle of the night, he heard, and he saw that bubble gum coming out of the trash can. Up the bedpost, right across the covers, then jumped in James's mouth, and he started going num 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 num. So James spit it out on the bed again. He grabbed it up, went up to his window, and he threw it out the window. He said, "Shoo," and he went back to bed. Next thing you know, he heard. There was that bubble gum oozing under the windowsill. Came up the bedpost, right across the bed, back into his mouth. So he spit that bubble gum out and he ran downstairs and threw it in the refrigerator. "I got it now," he said. So he went off to bed, and it didn't bother him anymore that night. He forgot about it the next morning when he went down to get his pancakes and his cereal and his yogurt and his orange juice and his apples and all that good stuff you're supposed to eat. And he opened up that door, that refrigerator door. He opened it, and what did he see? That bubble gum was this big. And that it was black, by the way. I didn't tell you the bubble gum was black. But it came and it started out that door, the refrigerator door, and look, right in his mouth and going, Anyway, he spit that bubble gum out, grabbed that bubble gum up, he ran out and he threw it in a mason jar and he screwed the lid on tight and put it up on the shelf, and he had to go to school. So when he got home that afternoon, guess what? He went out to see that bubble gum. And that bubble gum had filled up the whole entire jar. And it was going just like it was breathing. He grabbed it in that mason jar. He grabbed his dad's shovel. And he ran out and he started digging a hole. And he dug that hole just as deep as he could. And he threw that mason jar down in it. And he put that back over and he patted down that thing. And then he put rocks on top of it, and he planted some daffodils on top of that bubble gum, because he was going to make sure it was not going to get him again. So kids, if you go trick-or-treat this year, and as you hold out your bag, if somebody drops in a thing of black bubble gum with skull and crossbones on it, you better throw it away, because it's haunted. Thank you. I think
think I'll give out black bubble gum this year, just to see what happens. Our next storyteller, she and I have known each other for a long time. We do manage to get into a lot of trouble together. She comes to us from Walterboro, so please put your hands together for Miss Frankie O'Neill.
Correction. I am from historic Winnsboro. Yeah. My name is Frances Lee O'Neill, and I want you to know that I am the storyteller from Winnsboro, South Carolina. And that is my dynamic personality that you hear on that. I don't have any electricity on me except... Okay. I'm going to tell you a story from Ireland also. This is a story about Spencer Spivey. Spencer Spivey was, he was a tradesman. He had a big caravan that he traveled around, and he sold things out of the caravan. And he was a wonderful salesman. And as Spencer was going through Cork one day, he got so carried away selling to all the ladies that he forgot to arrange for a place to spend the night. So he thought, well, I'll just go. I'll go to that house right over there, but the light's still on, and I'll talk to the lady of the house, and maybe she can help me. So he went over and he knocked on the door, and this lady came to the door and said, yes. He said, excuse me, ma'am. She says, oh, I know, it's Spencer Spivey. He said, oh, yes, ma'am. I remember you bought something from me today. Oh, indeed I did. He said, well, I got so carried away that I did not arrange a place to stay. Do you think that you might have a place for me? And she said, oh, I think something can be arranged, but that is if you have a story to share with us. A story? Well, not exactly. I'm not a storyteller. I don't tell stories. I don't think. And with that, she took her hand and she put it right on his chest, and she just pushed him right on out the door and said, then we don't have a place for you. And she shut the door. He said, well, that's the craziest thing. He said, I've never heard anything like that. So he went to the next house. The lady came and she said, yes. He said, I got so carried away. She said, oh, Spencer, I just love these items that I bought from you today. And he said, oh, I really appreciate that. But he said, I need a place to stay for tonight. She said, we might be able to find something. But wait a minute. Do you have a story that you can share with us? Story? That's the second. You're the second one to ask for a story. No, I don't have a story. She said, well, I'm so sorry, Spencer, but we don't have a place. And with that, she shoved him back and shut the door. He went to the third house. They wanted a story. This is the craziest thing. Finally, at the fourth house, they said, no story, no bed in this house. And he said, don't you have anything? And they said, oh, yes, we have a barn. And he said, well, I'll take it. So he drove his caravan down, and he got everything situated and everything, and he looked around, and there was a huge haystack there, and he thought, well, I'll just sleep on the top of that haystack, and I'll be okay. So he goes over, and he started laying on the haystack, and down the road he could hear, and it sounded like more than one horse coming. And so he got up and he looked, and he thought,
Oh my goodness. I forgot about this neighborhood. There are robbers and rogues in this neighborhood, and oh my goodness, I believe they're heading down this road. I'm just going to stay right here real quiet, and maybe they're just, oh, but they're not going right on by. They're turning in. They're coming, oh my goodness. And he goes over and he gets in the haystack and covers himself up. And there he is in the haystack. All of a sudden, in the door comes a group of men, 2 of them carrying a dead body, dragging it in, and behind everybody came the leader of the bunch. Throw him over there. Just throw him right over there. We're not going to do anything with him tonight. Get him over there. And there was a real young one there. This is his first week with the robbers and the rogues. And he said, yeah, boss. Yes, boss. Yes, boss. Yeah, yeah. And all of a sudden, he turns around and he reaches down into that haystack and he jerks up Spencer Spivey and he said, what are you doing in here spying on us? No. I was just in here. I'm not here to mess. He said, we can use you too. Spencer said, me? Well, that I've got all sorts of stuff over here. Look over here. And he said, you got shovels? Oh, yeah, we got one for shoveling. Get them. Spencer went over to his van and he got the shovels. He said, everybody settle down for the night and keep an eye on this one. Everybody settled down and they surrounded Spencer Spivey and he couldn't even slip away during the night. Next morning when everybody woke up, the leader said, okay, boys, I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to go down here to the graveyard. We're going to dig us a grave. We're going to put that fella in it. We're going to plant him good. And he pointed at Spencer Spivey, and you're digging the grave. Spencer said, oh, well, yeah, I can help do that. Bring him. And they all got together and they threw that body and Spencer dragged that body on down. And when they got down there, they gave Spencer and they gave that kid a shovel and they said, dig. Well, they were digging and Spencer thought, oh man, this is awful. I wonder, and they said, what are you looking at? And he would say, nothing. Spencer was just looking around. They made him extra long grave, right? And they dug. It was twice as long as an ordinary man. Spencer thought, that might be where they're going to put me. And so anyway, when they turned around, Spencer got up out of that grave and, honey, he started running. And he outran that old leader, and that leader's hat flew off, and his hair all billowed out. It looked like a busted haystack up there. Spencer said, I'm running for my life and they'll never catch me. And you know what? They never did. But you know what? Spencer lost everything he had. Didn't have another thing left. And Spencer started over again. And he said, I'll just start all over again and build my trade back up. And it so happened that he left and he went on around towards Ring of Kerry and he went on around up towards Sligo. And he was up there one day and he was selling and he was talking. He was flirting with all the ladies. And all of a sudden he looked across the courtyard and there, standing against the wall, was the leader of that bunch. He thought, oh my, I'm not even going to look at it. I'm not even going to make eye contact. I'm not going to say one word. I'm not going to do anything. That leader of the bunch threw his cigarette down and he sort of ambled over towards Spencer Spivey. Spencer finally looked up and said, "Can I interest you in anything?" And that leader of the bunch said, "No, Spencer Spivey, not a thing. But tell me, Spencer Spivey, you think you might have a story to tell me now?" And that was the end of that. Most of the time I don't tell old tales. Most of the time I tell stories from Chester, South Carolina, because I'm from Chester. Thank you. And next month is the National Day of Storytelling. We will be telling stories at the Pine Tree Players in Winnsboro. And some of my friends that are here tonight, including Darian, they will be with me telling stories. But I'm going to tell you just a real short one that happened to me. This is a personal story. Most of the stories I tell are about me going to the wrong funeral, my friend singing at the wrong funeral, and the other thing is Annie Hayes from Chester that went to every funeral. But I tell all those, but that's a story for another day. But I'm going to tell you what actually happened to me on a Halloween night. When I went through high school, I had a job, and I worked at the movie theater downtown. And I sold tickets. And, of course, I got in free to see all the movies. Well, we had this movie to come, and I do not like scary things. But we had that movie, Frankenstein, that came, and my sister Evelyn, bless her little heart, she wanted to go see it. So she brought me, and at that time, there was no Wendy's, McDonald's, or anything. So she brought me a homemade hamburger and a pack of little chips, and I ate those while she enjoyed watching Frankenstein. About scared me to death. I sat with my head between my legs the entire time. She just ate it up, honey. Well, we started home. Well, in Chester, we lived down Walker Street, down another street, and then you go down Center Street. 3 blocks to my house. So we started home. And we were walking along. Dark as it, in this day and age, that day and age, you just walked everywhere, no matter when, dark, middle of the night, anything. All of a sudden, we heard, Evelyn said, "Fran, what is that?" I said, I don't know. I said, "Come on, let's walk back up to the corner." So we walked back up to the corner, and we stood there, and we looked down the street, and we could hear it. Evelyn said, "No, I don't believe anybody's having a party tonight." And I said, "No, I had never heard no one." So we stopped So we backed up again. We were standing there, and it just got louder and louder. So Evelyn said, let's go down Walker Street, because that parallels that. I said, oh, okay, that sounds like a good idea. So we started there, and this time, instead of holding hands, we put our arms around each other, and we were walking down, and it was going, and we got near the old jail, and we grabbed hands, and we ran back down into the corner again, and she said, how are we going to get home? We can't go past that. I said, I have no clue, but we're going to have to do it. So I said, it's coming from Walker Street, right down there. We're going to go by it. And she said, it sounds like a ghost. I said, I don't know what it is, but we're going to go by it. So she got behind me, and we walked down, and we turned the corner, and the whole time, and it got louder and louder until we finally got down to the Cameron house right in front, and we turned and we looked, and right along the edge there it said, floor refinishing. They were refinishing the hardwood floors, and that was the sander. Well, I want you to know it was hard to walk home with wet pants. But we made it. And that's what happened to me in Chester, South Carolina. My name is Frances Lee O'Neill, and I am the storyteller from Winnsboro. Come see us for the National Day of Storytelling. Thank you.
As long as I've known Francie, why I said she was from Walterboro, I don't have a clue. Sorry, Francie. Our next storyteller also gets into a lot of trouble with me. In fact, she works with me. She and I get called in on the carpet quite often. I'm with the Lexington County Public Library, and I'd like to introduce to you Miss Angela O'Connell, who is also with the Lexington County Public Library.
Yeah, at the library, we're supposed to be quiet all the time, right? Yeah, no, that doesn't happen. Rarely does that happen. We get shushed a lot at the library. But it's okay, because we have fun at the kids department. Anybody see me at the kids department there? The library? Any of my library kids? Hey! Hi, guys. Well, I thought I would tell one story, and then I thought I would tell a different one, and then I thought I would tell another one. So I think I'm going to tell this one. But before I do, I thought you guys have been sitting so quietly and been doing so patiently. I thought perhaps you guys could help me do a little poem. We're going to have to sing, though, okay? And now, this is the tune that we're going to say. We're going to say, ooh. Can you guys do that? It's really easy. Just up and down. Okay, you ready? All together. Let's try it. Oh, I really hear myself. But that's good. Y'all are doing it, right? Okay. So I'm going to say a line, and then you guys are going to, we're going to make that sound, okay? It's supposed to sound. Are you ready? There was a lady, short and fat. Oh, wait, I messed that up. What is it? What is it tonight? Hold on. Stop over. There was a lady in the graveyard sat. She was very short and very fat. She saw a corpse being carried in. It was very tall and very thin. To the corpse, the woman said, "Will I be like you when I am dead?" And to the woman, the corpse then said, "You will be like me when you are dead." To the corpse, the woman said, "Ah!" And that's the end of that. I love that part. It's so fun to scream. Sorry. I'm going to tell you guys a true story that happened to me. Well, it's mostly true. I am a storyteller, of course. I have to say. You see, it's probably been about a year ago now. It was down in January. And one afternoon, my mom called me and she said, "You know what? Your sister called and she said that we should have a girls' weekend." I said, "Okay, that sounds like fun." My sister's name is Laura. I'm Angie, and my mom. I'll just call her Mom. And Mom said, "Yeah," she said, "I was thinking that we could go to the beach." I said, "The beach? It's January." And she said, "Well, we could see some antique shops, and we could have a good time. We could walk on the beach, take some pictures. It'll be fun. We'll just go for the night and stay for the day." I said, "All right, I can do that. No problem. I've got the day off. That would be fun." So after my sister got off work, we all got in the car and we headed down to Folly Beach. You guys been to Folly Beach before? Right out in Charleston. I love Folly Beach. It's really eclectic. It's a lot of fun. Yeah. And so we get down to Folly Beach and we had fun. We walked on the beach. We talked. We bonded. We had girls' time. It was a great afternoon. And then that evening we went out for seafood because you need to eat seafood when you're out at the beach. And we talked and we laughed and we had a blast. And then it was getting to be about 10 o'clock and we said, "You know what? It's about time for us to get ready for bed." We hadn't booked a hotel. It's January at the beach. Nobody's going to be at the beach, just us. We shouldn't have a problem. So we went down to, Folly Beach only has like one hotel, maybe two. We went down to one hotel and we asked if they had a room available and they were like, "I am so sorry, but you have come, there's a conference going on this weekend and we have no rooms available." I'm like, "What? What is this, Bethlehem? No room at the inn? This is not right. No. We'll go down." And then, so we went down to the other hotel and we asked them, and they also had booked every single room. Now it's 11 o'clock at night. We're tired. We're getting a little grumpy. You know how the babies get whiny when they get tired? Well, my sister and I were getting that way, and my mama, oh my goodness. So, we were getting ready to go head back into Charleston, or just forget the whole thing and go on back to Columbia, when I looked, and out by the beach, the sea fog was coming in, and out by the beach, we saw this hotel. I'd never seen it before. I mean, I go to Folly Beach a lot. I used to live down in Walterboro, which is probably where Suzette got that from. And I had never seen this hotel before. Now, it wasn't my first choice, but it was late and we were tired. And this hotel was unpainted. The wood, you know how the beach just erodes the paint off the buildings and things? The wood, the paint was chipping. A couple of shutters were hung. It was definitely past its prime. And I was thinking, maybe this isn't such a good idea. But my sister was like, "Oh, come on. Don't be such a chicken." She's the baby, right? So we get up there, and we go to the hotel. Mom stayed out of the car. And we go up to the hotel, and we went to knock on the door, to open the door, and the door just kind of creaked open on its own. Now I'm thinking, I don't think so. But my sister just acted like she didn't even notice it. And Laura grabbed me by the hand and she said, "Come on, don't be such a chicken." And we went in there and we walked around and looked. And this hotel looked like it had come from 1940 something. It had heavy velvet drapes. It had a big wooden help desk and old-fashioned skeleton keys hanging up behind it with the room numbers on big wooden blocks. Big chandeliers hanging from the ceiling, and the chandeliers looked a little dusty, looked like it could use a good cleaning. And I'm looking around, I'm not seeing anyone. And there's a little bell on the counter, and it said, "Please ring bell for service." And my sister's like, "Cool." Ding, 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 ding. I grabbed her hand. I said, "Stop it. Don't do that." She said, "Don't tell me what to do." And I said, "Yes, I am telling you what to do. Don't do that." She said, "Come on, let's go." And about that time, we heard this voice say, "Yes? Yes." And we turned and looked, and standing right behind the counter was a man. He had not been there before. I was like, "No, it's good. We're leaving. Come on." And my sister said, "Listen, we were wondering, do you have any rooms available?" And he said, "Yes, I do." She said, "How much do they cost?" He said, $25. And I heard this little voice from the door say, "We'll take it." It was my mom. I'm like, hold on a minute. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And I was not feeling good about this situation. And then he hands me the key. Do you know what room we were in? It was room 413. Now, I am not a very superstitious person, but I lived in Japan for 4 years. And I happen to know that in Japan, the word for death is the same as the number 4, sheep. And in a lot of the buildings in Japan, they don't have a 4th floor because it's the word for death. And they are very superstitious. And I also knew that the number 13 is pretty superstitious as well, so I was not too happy about staying in 413. But my sister's dragging her luggage up, and my mom, she's got a bad knee, and so we get into the room, and I looked around, and the room looked clean. Checked for bed bugs, didn't see any. Everything looked really good. Looked in the bathtub, you always pull back the shower curtain and look back there. I didn't see anybody in there. Room looked nice, and I thought, well, it's just one night. We'll be fine. So we goofed around, as we do. We had to take pictures, selfies, and so we had a good time, and we talked. And then my mom said, "Listen, it's late, and I'm tired. We need to go to sleep. We're going to get up early. I think they have breakfast downstairs. And then we'll head off, and we'll do some shopping for antiques." Well, my sister and I were tired, too, and we're young, and so we get into bed. And my sister and I slept in one of the double beds, and my mom, she got the other one. And my sister and I, we get in bed, and you know how, "Don't touch me. Oh, your feet are cold. Ooh, Finally, we snuggled up, we spooned, and we got all comfortable, and we were just about to go to sleep when we heard this noise. My mama snores. If you see my mom, don't tell her I told you. But she really does snore real bad. And my sister said, Angie. I said, "What?" She said, "Make Mama roll over and she won't snore." I'm like, "Why do I have to go?" What? She said, "Because she's a big sister." So I snuck out of bed, and I went over to Mama, and I said, "Mama, roll over, you snoring." And she said, "Hey, get my bed down. Then she quit snoring. So I went to get back in the bed, and you know how it is in the dark when you go to get in the bed, that big dark space underneath the bed. You got to take a running leap so you can just jump into the bed. You don't want to get your feet anywhere near there, right? Am I the only person that does that? Okay. I knew somebody else had to do it. And that's what I did, and I accidentally landed on my sister, and then she punched me, and then we wrestled. But then we settled back down, and we were trying to go to sleep, and we heard a little voice. And it said, "I got you where I want you, and now I'm gonna eat you." I punched my sister. I said, "You better stop. Don't scare me." And she said, "That wasn't me." I said, "Well, it wasn't me." She said, "Well, who was it?" I said, "I don't know, but see, I'm smart. I'm the big sister, and I'm really smart, and I'm scared of the dark, so I always carry a flashlight." And I took my flashlight, and I shone it all around the room. I didn't see none. I said, you know what? It's probably the people next to us. I bet they left their television on. They're probably watching some old horror movie or something. She said, yeah, you're probably right. Turned off the light, snuggled up, and all ready to go to sleep. And we heard... Oh, no. Somebody had to make Mama roll over. It's okay, I'm the big sister. I went over and I said, Mama, roll over, you snoring? And she rolled over and she didn't snore anymore. And I went to get back in the bed. And just as I was getting ready to make that leap into the bed, I heard, I got you where I want you. And now I'm gonna eat you. I knew that wasn't my sister because I was looking at her. I knew it wasn't the television. It sounded like it came from that room. So I took my flashlight and I shone it all around. I looked under the bed. It's the first place I always look. Shone the flashlight out onto the balcony. I didn't see anything. Went into the bathroom and looked again. Pulled back the shower curtains, didn't see a thing. I thought, you know what? It's just my imagination. I have a very active imagination. I've always gotten in trouble for it. I'm not going to worry about this. Getting into bed, and my sister's sitting there, and she's and I'm like, don't worry about it. Just our imagination. We both imagine the same thing. We're good. We're good. Just go to sleep. Snuggle it all up again. And Mama started snoring again. Oh, no, this is going to be a long night. I got out of it. I said, Mama, stop snoring. She rolled over. She quit snoring. I went to get back in the bed. And I heard, I got you where I want you. And now I'm gonna eat you. Now, our room connected with the room next to us, and like if you were family or friends, you could open the two doors so you could come in and out. But since we didn't know the people next to us, we had locked that door. I noticed that that door had crept open a little bit, just a tiny little bit. And I grabbed my sister by the hand, and I made her come with me. I took my flashlight, and we snuck over there to that door. We heard it again. I got you where I want you, and now I'm gonna eat you. And I shone that flashlight down in the crack of that black door frame, and I looked, and I saw a scaly, hairy toe. It was attached to a skinny, hairy, bare leg. And as I shone that flashlight up, I could see it was a little, bald-headed old man. He looked like he was about 150 years old, sitting cross-legged in the space of that doorway between the two hotel rooms. He had a bowl in his lap. He was sitting cross-legged. He had a bowl in his lap. And he reached his hand in, rattled something around. And he picked something up and he said, I got you where I want you. Now I'm going to eat you. And then he saw my sister and I looking at him in the closet. We had fear in our eyes, and he looked up at us and he said, you want an M&M? I said, no, thank you. And I slammed my door and I locked it closely. My sister and I jumped back in the bed, pulled the covers over our head. Now, I tell you this story because you might go out to the beach. You might forget to book a hotel, and you might see that hotel. You might get room 413. And you might hear that little voice asking, I got you where I want you, and now I'm going to eat you. And if he asks you if you want some M&M's, What are you gonna say? Yes! That's a good one. So that's good. All right. Thank you guys. I had so much fun. There are lots of stories at the library. Come see us, okay? Bye, guys.
I've got to tell you, our next storyteller, I had a whole thing I was going to read about. This whole sheet. And when she got here tonight, I found out she wasn't even here anymore. So, I'm going to have to let her introduce herself and tell you exactly what she's been doing. I know that she is still in education, and I'd like to introduce Miss Jeanette Samuels.
So glad to be here tonight. The story I'm going to tell is a story by Jackie Torrance. She's a phenomenal storyteller. She's passed on, but years ago she told a story, and I happened to see her in Orlando, Florida. And she said this story was told to her when she was a little girl by her teacher. And that really struck a chord with me because I'm a teacher. And she said the teacher would tell stories with a book in her hand. And soon she noticed that the pages never turned. She learned that that teacher told those stories from her mind. She memorized them. And so I started doing that for my students, and I found that I absolutely love the art of storytelling. The first story I'm going to tell, and actually I think it's going to be the only story I'm going to tell tonight, is called Evil John and the Devil. And then when I finish, I'm going to share a poem with you. Now, Evil John, he lived a long time ago in the mountains of North Carolina. And Evil John got his name because he was powerfully mean. Why, he was one of the meanest men around. And he was stingy, too. Why, he was so mean that even his own wife was afraid of him. But he was known for being a fine blacksmith. And he worked very hard at it. So one morning he got up and he said to his wife, "Woman, do you have my breakfast ready?" And she said, "Yes, John, yes, it's on the table." So John comes down, stomping down those stairs as mean as he could be. And he goes into the kitchen. He eats his breakfast as fast as he could. And then John steps outside to walk toward his blacksmith shop, which was right down the street. As he walked down to his shop, he took out his keys, and when he got there, he commenced to open the door. And when he looked in, he saw this very bright light. And he didn't know what it was, and this made him angry. So he said, "Who's that in my shop?" And the light cleared, and out emerged an angel. And the angel said, "John, I'm here because we've been watching you. And we know what kind of man you are. You're just downright evil. And I'm here to give you 3 wishes. And with those 3 wishes, I tell you what, when you die, it'll guarantee you a place in heaven." And John says, "I don't want any 3 wishes. Now you get on out of here, dripping those feathers all over my place. You need to leave here." And she says, "Well, I'm not going to leave. I'm not going to leave until I give you those 3 wishes." And John says, "All right then." So he thinks a little bit, and he says, "Well, I want my first wish to be this. Why, when I'm blacksmithing and doing my work, people come in and they're admiring all my tools and putting their hands all over them, and the first thing they go to is my hammer. Now, that's a mighty fine hammer. And I want anybody that touches my hammer, I want it to stick to them." And the angel said, "That's your wish?" And John says, "Yes, it is." She says, "What an awful wish." "It's my wish, and I get it, right?" She says, "Yes." So she gives him that wish. So she says, be careful, John, because you have 2 left. And John says, okay. Let me think. Now, once I finish the long days of work, working in my blacksmith shop, when I get home in the evening, I want to sit a spell on my front porch, and I want to rock in my favorite chair. But every time I get ready to go home and sit in that chair, somebody's always in it. Well, I tell you what, I want anybody that sits in my chair, I want that chair to stick to them. The angel said, that's an awful wish, John. Well, it's my wish, isn't it? And she said, yes, you got it. So, John was getting quite tired of seeing this angel, and he says, one more wish. All right. You know, I make a lot of money working in my blacksmith shop. And I take my money and I put it in my wallet, and I put my wallet in my pocket. And as soon as I get home at night, I put that wallet on my dresser, and I rest for the night. Now, somehow or another, my wife gets to that wallet, and she takes the money out. She has to buy this and that and the other. And I don't even get to spend my own money. So I tell you what, any money that's in my wallet stays there unless I take it out or until I'm dead. And the angel says, what an awful wish. She grants him his 3rd wish, and she disappears. Now, John continues to work in his blacksmith shop. Why, he works there for many, many years. And he's getting meaner and meaner and meaner. Matter of fact, when his wife sees him, she goes and locks herself up in the closet. But she hardly ever comes out. But this particular day, as John went to his blacksmith shop, took out his keys, got ready to open the door, he noticed there was a light inside. John says, who's that in my shop? Now, he was quite angry. And so John looked, and there, to his surprise, was the devil himself. And the devil says, John, you are a right mean fella. You've been mean for many, many years. And you know you're making me look mighty bad. I'm here to take your soul, and I want it now. And John says, now? Yes, now. Now, John wasn't ready to go with the devil. But John had a thought. He said, you know, if I've got to go with you, I'm going to do it. But one thing I need you to do, Mr. Devil, I need you to give me some time to finish what I'm doing, because I'm known for being a fine blacksmith. And when I start something, I have to finish it. So the devil said, all right, then, get to it, because you're going with me. So John commenced to working, and he was trying his best to work as slow as he could. Why, he worked slower and slower and slower, and the devil got angrier and angrier. The devil said, John, hurry up. It is time for you to go with me, and it's time for you to go now. And John says, well, if you want me to go now, why don't you help me finish my work? See that hammer over there? I need you to get that hammer and start hammering for me. The devil said, well, if that means I'm going to get you any sooner, well, I'll get to it. The devil walks over, and he looks at that hammer. It's mighty big. He takes both hands and grabs it. And sure enough, that hammer sticks to him. Why, this makes the devil mad. He says, I want this hammer off of me now. Get it off of me, John. Let it go. John says, well, if you want that hammer off of you, then you need to get on out of here. Just get it. And the devil says, I'm not going anywhere, because I'm here to take your soul. And John says, well, let's go ahead and go with that hammer stuck to you. And the devil said, John says, well, I got a bargain for you. The devil said, I don't bargain with the likes of you. He says, well, you want that hammer off of you, don't you? And the devil gives in. He says, well, I know you don't want to see me, but I'm coming back. I'm going to get your soul. So here's the bargain. in 20 years, I will be back. And I will get you, and you will be mine. And so John says, that's the best you can do? The devil said, well, take it or leave it. So John agrees and tells the hammer to let the devil go. And it does. Now, the devil spins around 15 times, and he disappears out of sight. Now, many years pass on, and John continues to get mean, but his vision starts to really weaken. He can't see as well as he used to. But he keeps working the best he could. And within those 20 years, that devil was back. That devil said to John, all right, I'm back. And it's time for you to go with me. And I'm going to tell you one thing. I'm not going to do any hammering either. And John says, all right, since I have to go with you, a bargain's a bargain. So John says, but I need to pack. I need to take my clothes with me. The devil says, well, you don't need any clothes. Just pack a few short sleeve shirts and you'll be fine. And so John goes into the house and he tells the devil, you sit right here on the porch in this chair for a spell. And I'll go to commencing the packing and I'll be right back out. So John, whose eyesight was failing, packs as slowly as he could. Takes him an awful long time. And the devil's getting mad. All right, John, you packed enough. You get out here now, because I'm ready to take your soul. And John says, in a minute, I'll be out. Devil gets up and then realizes that chair has stuck to him. And he says, get me out of this chair. You tell this chair to let me go. He starts squirming and moving and shaking and breaks up that whole porch, knocks the entire roof off the house trying to get that chair loose. And the devil doesn't have any luck. So John sticks out his head out the door and he says, having a little trouble there? And the devil says, you know I am. You know I'm having trouble. You tell this chair to let me go. And John says, I will. But you got to bargain with me. The devil says, me bargain with the likes of you? I've had enough of this. Well, John, you're getting pretty old. And I'm going to tell you right now, you don't have 20 years left. Well, I'll give you 5 more years if you tell this chair to let me go. And John says, let him go. And the chair does. The devil spins around 20 times this time, and he disappears out of sight. Now, as the years progress, John's vision has gotten so bad that he has to retire from his blacksmith shop. So John sits a lot on his porch, and he takes a little morning stroll up and down the street, and that's pretty much the activity for his day. Well, sure enough, when he was taking his morning walk one morning, the devil comes back. Oh, John is so blind that he's having to walk with 2 canes. But he knew, without a doubt, that that devil was ready for him. So the devil walks beside John. He's so proud. He's so happy. I got you now. You're mine. Your soul is mine. While the devil is walking along as John is trying his best to make it. Come on, come on. You're heading in the right direction. Let's go, let's go. The devil's so proud while he kicks some dust right in John's face. While that dust went straight into John's face and into his mouth and down his throat, and it scratches his throat. And John says, well, devil, I really want to go with you, but after you've kicked the dust in my face, why that dust has gotten in my throat, and my throat is really scratchy and really dry. I really need to have something to drink before I continue this journey. And he says, and while I was in such a haste to walk this morning, got my wallet, but I didn't put any money in it. Could you at least loan me a quarter? The devil says, quarter? I don't have any money. He says, well, I have heard that you can turn yourself into anything, any shape, any form. Why don't you just turn yourself into a quarter. And I'll commence to go into that there store that I think is across the street. Is it there? And the devil looks and he says, yeah, there is a store right there. He said, well, you just turn yourself into a quarter and I'll put it in my wallet. And you know, once I pay for my drink, why, you can turn yourself into a gnat and just fly on out that store, and then we can continue our journey. And the devil says, I wish I had thought of that. So the devil spins around 25 times and turns himself into a quarter and lands right in John's hand. John puts that quarter in his wallet, sticks it in his pocket, and starts his journey back home as proud as he could be. But about 6 months later, John passed away. He was a very old man. And when he passed, neighbors came from all around to see him. And one neighbor in particular looked over at the dresser and saw his wallet. And he says, I wonder how much that old man has made over the years. I think I'll open that wallet and check it out. And the minute he opened that wallet, out popped the devil. And that old devil has been flying around ever since. I found a needle, and the needle bent, and that's the way the story went. I'm a teacher by trade, and I absolutely love teaching. I've been teaching for a very long time, and I think I'll probably teach until I'm just like John, can barely see you anymore. But anyway, this poem that I found, and I didn't get a chance to memorize it, reminds me of something I'll tell you about at the end. And it's called In Darkest Woods He Wandered. Have anybody heard that poem before? All right, somebody may have. And now, the author wasn't listed, so I think the author's unknown. In the darkest woods he wandered, one moonless stormy night. The tree limbs made him shiver, reaching out through lightning's light. The thunder rumbled its deep warning and spoke of dreadful things. For he was out on Halloween with all his dark heart's friends. And when I say with all its dark heart brings, because darkness, the heart of Halloween. His path led through the woods for miles, and eyeballs watched him travel. He could feel their wicked smiles while trying hard not to unravel. Would he live another hour, or would dark forces take him down? Would they, this traveler, overpower? Did he hear hoofbeats on the ground? The thunder clapped, the lightning flashed, the tree limbs reached to slap at him. He heard the evil cackle. All senses seemed to dim. The rain was in his face now, and the storm just seemed to grow. He was lying on his back, and how? He didn't know. The fear engulfed his total being. He couldn't even speak. And all the evil he was seeing only served to make him weak. He jerked awake and saw beside him another frightened form. Somehow, they both were now together in this awful storm. He looked at her beside him and said with eyes quite wide, I don't feel like sleeping out. I think I'll go inside. And it reminds me of our camping days. We would have a wonderful campsite and light outside, and it could be a tiny little chihuahua outside, our little pet. And to me, once that light hit it and the shadow of it looked like an enormous bear. And I would be just so frightened. And my husband would go out and say, Jeanette, there's nothing there. It's just a dog. But it looked like a bear. So I want to leave that with you. And thank you so much.
Well, we have all had a wonderful time tonight. This is the 25th year, and we are all here together to say thank you to Suzette Hawkins. She is retiring soon, but we hope that we will all see you back here next year because she will be here, we know, telling stories. So let us thank, for the 25th year, Suzette Hawkins.
I'm going to tell you a story that's kind of gotten to be my signature story, and I tell it every year, so I end with this one, and also with a little poem. So if you'll indulge me. The story is called The Monkey's Paw, and this is how it goes. Long, long ago, back when times were hard, there lived an old man and an old woman and their young son. Now, the old man and the old woman were in very poor health, so the young man had to do all of the work to support the family. But he was also not well. And every night he would come in from his job and he would look at his father and he would say, "When? When can I come home and just rest?" And his father would say, "Well, son, I don't rightly know, but surely someday there'll be some kind of miracle and you'll be able to just come home and take it easy." Now, the old man had a very good friend who usually came to visit about once a month. He was simply called the Sergeant Major. And it just so happened that this particular night was the night that the Sergeant Major was to come. But there was a terrible storm out. The rain was coming down so heavy it looked like it was coming down in sheets, and the lightning was shaking their little cabin. Now, the old woman, she was over putting the kettle on to make some tea. The old man was sitting in front of the fireplace just trying to warm his hands, and she looked over and she noticed that he looked a bit strange. And she said, "Old man, are you all right?" He said, "Oh, yeah, I'm fine." He said, "It's just that tonight is the night that the Sergeant Major is to come, and I fear with the storm he won't be able to get here." Well, now, he had no sooner gotten those words out of his mouth when there came a knock at the door. The old woman, she went over and she opened the door, and there stood the Sergeant Major. He was drenched from head to toe. He looked at her and he said, "Move aside, woman, and let me come in." So she stepped aside. He came in, took his coat off, and hung it on a peg by the door. Now, he crossed over to the fireplace, and he began to warm his hands, just trying to get the chill off. The old woman, she happened to notice this, so she brought him a nice hot cup of tea, and he kind of cupped his hands around him. And then he looked at the man, and he said, "What's wrong with you, old man? Were you afraid I wouldn't come?" And the old man said, "Well, it was a bad storm out." He said, "We've had worse storms than this at sea. This is nothing." And they began to talk. Now, after a while, the old man looked at the Sergeant Major. He said, "Sergeant Major, would you like a smoke?" And the Sergeant Major said, "Well, you know I would." He said, "I did bring my pipe." He said, "But I'm a little short of smoking tobacco." The Sergeant Major said, "That's okay. I've got plenty of that." So he reached out, handed the Sergeant Major a little pouch of smoking tobacco, and the Sergeant Major reached down in his pocket to get his pipe. Now, as he pulled his hand back out, a very strange object fell to the floor. He quickly looked around to see who saw it, reached down, picked it up, and shoved it in his pocket. Well, now, the old man was old, but his eyesight was very good. And he looked at the Sergeant Major and he said, "What was that?" Sergeant Major said, "Oh, nothing you have to worry about, just a little trinket that I picked up on my travels. Nothing you have to be concerned about." And the old man said, "Well, if I don't have to be concerned about it, let me see it." So the Sergeant Major again slid his hand into his pocket. When he brought it out, he was holding a very peculiar, very strange object. And the old man looked at it and he said, "What is that?" The Sergeant Major said, "You don't want to know." He said, "I've tried to give it away. I've tried to throw it away. I can't get rid of it. It is evil." And the old man said, "What is it?" The Sergeant Major said, "It's called the monkey's paw." And that's exactly what it was. It was a gnarled up, petrified monkey's paw. The old man says, "What does it do?" The Sergeant Major said, "I'm telling you, you don't want to know." He said, "It's evil. It really is evil." The old man said, "Oh, come on. Tell me what it does."
The sergeant major said it grants wishes. But once you make the first, you must make the other two. The old man said, how does it work? The sergeant major said, you hold it over your head. You make your wish. As you bring it down in front of your face, if it moves, then your wish has been granted. But throw it away. It's evil. And with that, the sergeant major actually threw it into the edge of the fire. And the old man said, look at that thing. It doesn't even burn. He takes his cane and he rakes it out. And he picks it up. And the sergeant major looks at him again and said, I'm warning you, it's evil. Throw it away. But the old man didn't throw it away. He laid it on the mantel. Now, he and the sergeant major talked about many things that night. And well past midnight, the sergeant major got ready to take his leave. He crossed over, took his coat off of the peg by the door. And as he opened the door, he turned around and he looked at the old man. He said, I'm warning you, throw it away. It's evil. And he was gone. Now, the young man had been listening to the entire conversation. And once the sergeant major was gone, he went up to his father and he said, could this be it? Could this be the miracle that we've waited on? And his father said, well, I don't rightly know, but maybe, just maybe, if we don't wish for too much, the evil will not be so bad. He reached up and took the monkey's paw. He held it over his head. He said, I wish for $250. And he slowly brought it down in front of his face, and it moved, and he threw it on the floor. Now, they sat there for quite a while, and nothing unusual happened. So he picked it up, replaced it on the mantel, and everyone went to bed. Bright and early the next morning, the old woman was again putting the kettle on for tea, and the old man was over stoking up the fire. The young man was getting ready to go to his job in town. You see, the young man worked at the sawmill. He operated a huge saw. Now, all day long, nothing unusual happened. That is until late that afternoon. The old woman was looking out of her window, and she noticed that there was a stranger standing at their gate. And she looked around. She said, oh, man, she said, we've got company. There's a stranger at the gate. Go let him in. So the old man went out, went down, opened the gate. A young man started walking back towards the house. He was wearing a hat, but he reached up, took it off, and kind of clutched it into his chest. By the time he reached her steps, she was standing there wiping her hands on her apron, and she was going, yes, can I help you? He said, yes, ma'am, I've come from town. He said, I represent the company that your son works for. He said, I have some news about your son. She said, my child? What about my child? He said, I'm so sorry. He said, there's no way you could possibly hold the company responsible for what's happened. He said, we all tried to warn him, but as though he were in some type of trance, your son walked into the saw blades. He's dead. My child? Said the old woman. He said, yes, ma'am, we are so sorry. He said, but we wanted to help out in some small way. So we collected a purse to help you with the funeral expenses. He said, here's $250. And he dropped it into the old woman's hand. Now, there was a funeral the next day, and such grief you've never seen. As she sat next to him on that buckboard, the tears streamed down her face. As they got close to the house, she turned and she looked at the old man. She said, that paw did it. That paw took my child's life. You make it bring him back. And the old man said, no, you don't know what you're asking. But that's all he heard. For days, that's all she said. Make it bring him back. Finally, he could take it no longer. And late one night, he reached up onto the mantel and grabbed the paw. He threw it over his head. He said, send him back. Send my child back from the grave. And he slowly brought it down in front of his face, and it moved. And he threw it to the floor.
Now, he and the old woman sat there till well past midnight. The fire had all burnt down. The candles were low. When suddenly the old woman, she heard a sound. It was on her porch. She said, "That's him. That's my child." She said, "That's my child. He's come back." And she ran to the door. Now, it was very hard times, and there were many latches on the door. She began throwing the latches off as fast as she could. The old man was frantically hunting on the floor for the paw. Just as she got to that last latch and threw it off, the old man threw it over his head. He said, send it back to the grave." And he brought it down in front of his face, and it moved. And he dropped it to the floor. Now, the old woman, she reached out and snatched open the door, and there was nobody there. But do you remember that gate at the end of the walk? It was moving back and forth, as if someone or something had just passed through it. Now, if you were listening, you just learned a real good lesson. If at any time you should shove your hand way into your pocket, and you should feel something there that feels most strange, throw it away! Because it's probably the monkey's paw. And that's the end of the story. Give you something to think about as you go back through the parking lot. This poem is by Jack Paluxky, and it goes like this. The gruesome ghoul, the grisly ghoul, without the slightest noise, waits patiently beside the school to feast on girls and boys. He lunges fiercely through the air when they come out to play, and grabs a couple by the hair and drags them far away. He snaps their backs and cracks their bones and squeezes out their lungs. He eats their thumbs like candy tarts and pulls apart their tongues. Fingers, elbows, hands and knees, and arms and legs and feet. He eats them with delight and ease, 'cause every part's a treat. And when the gruesome grisly ghoul has nothing left to do, he hurries here, perhaps, and waits on you. Thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed the night. Everybody have a safe trip home. Let's all thank Miss Suzanne. Thank you for 25 years of good stories. Miss Angie. Miss Millie.
I'm at Davis Early Childhood Center for Technology in Lexington, District 2. Thank you.
And my name is Frances Lee O'Neill, and I am the storyteller in Winsboro, and I hope to see you November 22nd for Celebration. Thank you.